Hello and welcome back to the Championship Lowdown podcast. I am joined once again with Elliott, and for the first time, I'm joined with Ollie. If you want to introduce yourself quick, Ollie.
Hello, yeah, Ollie from Hull. I'll be putting a little bit of a northern twang on it today for you.
Brilliant. So, today is the big one. It is our Championship 25-26 predictions. We'd like to clarify before we go through it, this is our average out of the four hosts. So Chris isn't here today, but us three and Chris, all of our predictions, we collide into one, and this is our average table. So as you see the slides, it'll show all of our teams, but don't get offended if we didn't put your team where you want us to see them. I know certain fan bases
blame Chris because he's not here.
Yeah, Chris is probably the one you'll probably take the most offence to anyway, based on some of these, so we'll soon find out. But anyway, we'll kick it off straight away with the only unanimous decision of the entire table, and it's Sheffield Wednesday to finish bottom, obviously 12 places lower than they finished last season. Elliott, I think there isn't really too much arguing this. It's more the case of they actually finished the whole season in general.
Yeah, well, there's clearly no argument because we all have them 24th. The only thing I would argue about on this is that we do have last season 24th, which I've only just noticed, which obviously isn't quite true. But they will finish 24th. Like, they're getting a point deduction. They've lost their manager. They've lost all their players. They might not even be able to play Barry Bannon. I think I was reading today. So
yeah, something weird with his contract.
Yeah, like they are. Yeah, it's not a nice situation, but it is easy for us to predict. So, unfortunately, it's a unanimous.
There's not really much else you can say, is there? Really, they're in absolute disarray, and that's an understatement.
Yeah. I mean, as we said, players not signing contracts. Potential. They were thinking about boycotting this weekend at Leicester, but they've decided not to. I think they are going to play. Whoever is actually still there and able to play, I don't know, but you'd imagine it's going to be a very long season for Wednesday fans. And the main question, as I just said, will be whether they actually make it to the finale in May. It'll be interesting to see. But as we all agree, and this is the only time you'll see this as a unison agreement, Sheffield Wednesday will be bottom. Next up, and for Ollie's sake, probably not a good sign, it's Hull City. And you are actually, Ollie, the only person who predicted Hull to finish outside of the relegation zone, as we've all unanimously put them in 23rd.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're another club sort of in disarray, obviously not to the same levels as Sheffield Wednesday, but we're still obviously under embargo at the moment, waiting for the appeal to the appeals process to sort of kick in and find out what the result of that is. Really quite impressed with a few of the players we've brought in, though, to be fair. I think we've had not a bad window given our situation. Obviously bringing in McBurney yesterday gives us a little bit of firepower up top, which we've needed. Bringing Miller back in, and from injury, I don't think he's due back in until October, actually. Him and Balloon will give us that pace. But, yeah, I mean, the depth of our squad's just probably not going to be enough to be pushing us any higher than my prediction of 21st. But we'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get a little bit better than that.
I mean, you said about Burnley, I suppose, as a Swansea fan, I can sort of adhere to the fact that it does help your forward line, as much as I wasn't too bothered about us missing out on him, especially with the reported wage you were handing him. I think it's just
this is not fees, isn't it?
Yeah. I think my biggest worry is, as you said, is the depth of the squad. I don't really see, if you're all about 2 injuries away from absolute catastrophic failure, I think. And I'm still not. I don't like the back four either. Playing 2 very, very attacking fullbacks in a back four could be disastrous in a team that's going to struggle as well. I think that'll be interesting.
Losing somebody like McLaughlin as well, and obviously Alfie Jones has gone across to Middlesbrough. They're 2 big losses, really. I mean, McLaughlin's been with us for a while now. I think 6 to 7 seasons he was with us, and he can cover at left back as well. So obviously losing him is a big one. So like you say, it's the depth is a concern for me.
Similar story, Elliott.
Yeah, when you look at that whole squad, you don't see them. You don't see them keeping goals out, and you don't see them scoring enough goals to make up for it. Like it. I can sort of see a world where having Ollie McBurney and these attacking fullbacks and that we've just spoken about in that midfield, like there's a world where they score goals. I just don't see the world where they score more goals than they concede, which is quite a big part of winning football matches. I have worries about Hull, but I only really have them 23rd because when I looked at the rest of the table, I was like, I fancy a lot of the I fancy Charlton to stay up, which I think some people won't. And I was like, if I'm going to put them higher and move everyone down, it's like, who actually do I think is going to go down? And I find it hard to predict a lot of teams to go down as whole feel like they've got that soft underbelly. And it feels like if things start going wrong, they won't be able to right the ship, I guess is more my concern of the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you said, so last season 21st, we've given them a slight decrease. Ollie, you've got them just about where you were last season, but only a slight decrease down to 23rd as our average prediction. And the final relegated team on our average is Oxford United. But Elliott, you've gone extremely rogue with this one because you're the only person to predict Oxford, not only with not a 2 at the start of their number, but 11th in the top half of the table.
The worse the squad is, the better a manager Gary Rowett is. I don't like Gary Rowett because the way he plays football is miserable, and the way he left us by, flashing his knickers at other teams. Like, he was desperate to leave us, and he was going to job interviews while working for us, which is why we sacked him. But he did work magic with what was a poor Birmingham squad. Like, the first time around, and he has consistently finished outside the relegation zone with whatever you give him, and he will turn straw into gold, or at least like bronze or silver. The Oxford squad is not amazing, but I just think Rowett will somehow counter-attack his way into like mid-table. I just have faith that he will just counter-attack his way into mid-table, and a lot of these teams will just sort of not know what to do with him. Like, they just won't know how to beat him because he's done it consistently for years.
I mean, Ollie, you've sort of got you're 23rd, so it's the lowest out of the three of us. So you're very much the opposite of what Elliott's just said, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I know they've not had a massive turnover this off season, really, but I just think they've not brought anywhere near enough in to sort of compete. I think that they're on the same sort of level as what we are, really, in terms of the squad depth. I don't really know where the goals are going to come from. I know you said Gary Rowett he can get in and get you on the counter attack and stuff, but I'm not buying into that, Elliott, to be honest. I think I can't see them having anywhere near enough to stay up, unfortunately, for Oxford. In my opinion.
We had David Davis on the wing for large periods of the time he was there, and we finished mid-table. If you've ever watched David Davis play, he's not a winger.
I see your point with Gary Rowett and stuff. I've just gone through, as you sort of did with Hull, I've sort of just gone through the rest of the league, and I don't think anyone else above them is worse than them. And as much as Gary Rowett can work miracles with bad squads, I just think they're missing too much, especially depth as well. There is zero depth, I think, in that Oxford team that's good. So I think they're going to really, really struggle when it comes to times like December, and there's just not a lot to go. So I think they could definitely stay up. As you said, there's every chance with pretty much all of these teams by Wednesday that they could all swap and change into the relegation zone. But for me, I'll say 22nd, so the average is out at 22nd as well. Somehow, even though with Elliott putting them 11th. But so a last season decrease of 5 from their 17th place last season. Next up, and a lowish one, maybe people might not expect to be this low. Stoke City in 21st as our average prediction. Obviously, Ollie and Elliott, you're in agreement that they're going to finish in 20th. I've got a bit higher, 17th. Personally, I think this helps with signs like Jamie Donnelly coming in through the door yesterday as well. I just think there's a lot of quality in that Stoke squad. They just need to unlock it. But I also do see it's a bit of a poison chalice. And as much as Mark Robins is a great manager, people just never seem to get any success with Stoke since they've been relegated from the Premier League. So I think it'll be an interesting one. But for me, I've got them 17th. I think they'll be amazing, but I don't think they'll be terrible either. But obviously, you two seem a bit closer to that relegation zone.
Yeah, Stoke, like you say, you can look at that squad and look at all the quality they've got, but you could do that for the last 3 years. In fact, they've had better squads than this and still finished 18th. Maybe I don't know. I think maybe Mark Robins will work his magic, and he'll be the manager to finally figure out how to manage Stoke. But it's really hard to back Stoke at all because they've just been really disappointing for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
it's another thing, isn't it, with the goals again? It's a championship sort of pattern, isn't it, really? Where do the goals come from in that team? I mean, you probably look at the squad. We mentioned the quality already. They do have some quality, not least the goalkeeper, really. I mean, if he's going to still be there at the start of the season, if not at the end of it.
Dave John Ho as well.
I mean, I know they brought in Sorba Thomas from Huddersfield, but I don't know. I don't think they'll be mid-table top half at all. I think they'll be down there in a relegation fight, to be honest.
Well, as I said, we've averaged out at 21st, so it would be a 3-place decrease. I don't think we've had anyone actually higher. Well, obviously, as you'd expect, we haven't had anyone to finish higher than they did last season yet. But yeah, so 3-place decrease for Stoke. I can sort of see the point. I think there's just worse teams, in my opinion, in the league than them, as far as just on pure quality, and they always find a way to stay up normally, so I think they'll be all right. Next up, Charlton, and a bit different here because, Ollie, you do have them to get relegated, whereas Elliott, you've got them a very comfortable mid-table. Obviously, we can't do a comparison to last season because they were the playoff winners in League One, but I mean, I'll start with you, Ollie, because I feel like Charlton going down, ironically, ended up being quite a rogue shout.
Yeah, a little bit. I think I don't really know why I've gone with it in that sense, but I think that they've brought in a lot of players, and I think it's when they try and bring in that many players to compete in the Championship, you've got so many clubs. So we discussed before we started recording about how competitive the entire division is. So when you're bringing in that many players to try and gel at one time, I think it's a real difficult thing to get right. And I just think they'll fall short this season. Again, we'll go back to depth again. I know they've brought in a lot of players, but I don't think they've got enough creativity, enough fluidity in midfield. I think they'll struggle. Yeah, I don't think they'll do any good, to be honest. I know that the success of getting promoted and stuff can often carry into the next season, but I think for Charlton, for me, I don't think they'll have it. I think it's probably come a little season too early for them, maybe.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
No,
I think
they
were
were
the best team in the league last year.
Yeah, you mentioned this before, Elliott, on our managers one, didn't you? You thought they were arguably the second best team in the division for most of the year. For me, my big worry is spending £3 to £5 million on Charlie Kelman with, was it 2 championship goals to his name? I think it's risky. A lot of money, that's your marquee guy. That's the guy need to go and score a load of goals to keep you in this division. And I'm not entirely sure I see it with someone like him. There is strength from the squad. I think Harvey Nibbs is a great signing for this division. I think he's been overdue for a while to move into the Championship away from Reading, and he's finally got it now. But I've got them 20th. I think they'll struggle. I can't see him, as you said, flourishing like Birmingham and Wrexham. I think will a lot more than them. But for me, just a bit too short. But Elliott, you've actually got them highest out of all of us in 16th here.
I've also got them higher than I put Wrexham, which is maybe
you do, which we'll get on to.
I just think I think Charlton were better than Wrexham last year. I obviously watched both because we played them multiple times and obviously kept an eye on League One. Charlton were the team I expected to go up automatically at the back end of the season. They were on a massive winning run. They were, in my eyes, the best team we played last season as well. They really did a number on us at their place. I can't remember I think we beat them at our place, but they were. I think Nathan Jones is an excellent manager who will get the best out of the pieces he's got. They've signed as many of the best players. There's a lot of players out of League One, some of the best players out of League One, which does mean if they do go down, they'll probably go straight back up. But I just think Jones is too wily to get drawn into like a relegation. I think he's going to be smarter than like the Hull manager. I can't remember his name, but I've got him low on the list.
Jakirovic.
That's it, Jakirovic. I think he's going to.
I would have forgot that.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that, but I didn't want to guess.
I've been practicing his name for weeks.
Same. I didn't want to guess it either.
I just think he's better than a lot of the managers who will be in a relegation battle. And I think he'll get them out of it. They went on a massive run at the end of last season. Once they figured it out, I think they can start the season hot and sort of ride that to mid-table. That's sort of how I see their season going. Maybe I'll look stupid when they start the season 0-5, but I just think Charlton were the second best team in League One last year, and I suspect they'll do quite well this year.
Fair enough. We will move on to 19th, and it's Preston. With actually, it is the first time we'll see a higher prediction than last season because it's not exactly difficult. They were 20th, got into 19th, which is where I've put them. Ollie and Elliott, you both gone above that. Chris, however, did put him down 22nd. He's not here to give a justification for it, but I got 19th. I just think their squad's lacking a lot of quality. I think I quite like Heckingbottom more than most people do. I don't think you'll let them get relegated. It seems to be quite a popular opinion that people think they're going to go down this season because, again, the quality of the league's just got a lot higher with very good promoted teams coming up for the first time in basically ever.
And good relegated teams.
Exactly. So, yeah, I've got 19th, I think. I mean, Ollie, again, you're the highest here on Preston.
Yeah, I mean, it's just experience. I think being a Hull fan and following and going to Preston, like, you know, when you go to the home and the away games and stuff, and that sort of burrows into your head. They're like consistently inconsistent, aren't they? Preston, they're sort of flatter to deceive half the time. It's a strange old club, but I think they'll be all right. I don't think they'll be flirting with relegation this season. I know they started faltering towards the end of the back end of last season, but I just think they'll have a little bit too much to be worried about anything sort of troubling them for relegation. I don't think they'll touch playoffs. I don't think there's enough quality in there. They've brought in Thierry Small, decent player who can play both sides. I like that signing for them. Good player. Keep him fit. He'll be a key player for them. I just think they'll be, again, consistently inconsistent. 14th, about right, mid-table for me.
Similar story with you, Elliott.
Yeah, I hate Preston because playing against them is just horrible. Like, I don't have a problem with the club. I just the amount of times Blues have gone to Preston and just stunk the place out, and just like Preston just have this knack of making the team they're playing just play worse, and just they turn the game into a grind, and they will just grind out points. They will find their way to safety. I don't see them going much higher. I certainly don't see them going higher than 14th. Ollie's got me 14th. I think that's probably the ceiling this season. I sort of went with 17th. I think they'll finish in that sort of 14 to 20 bracket, but I don't think they'll be in any real danger of relegation. They're just, as you say, they'll just do enough. They'll have just enough quality. They'll spoil enough games to get there.
Yeah, sort of just the perennial average team in the Championship, and we've got them finishing pretty average overall at 19th anyway, so probably suits them. Moving on, Watford. Interesting one here because, it's, again, a bit different. I'm actually the highest on him here in 14th, whereas Elliott, you've got all the way down 21st. See, last season was 14th, so for me, I'd have them there, but on our average, it falls into 18th in the division. I'll go first because, obviously, I've got them the highest, but I don't know. I just really like the signings that they're making, but I can't put them any higher because I don't know enough about Pezzolano, and I put him bottom in my management rankings purely because his record abroad just isn't great, and I don't see him I don't see him lasting more than about 3 weeks anyway. Granted, but I think if they get the right guy in, if they get the right guy in. There's a lot of talent in that squad. I mean, some of the signs have been brilliant. That kid from Bayern Munich, I'm not going to try and remember off the top of my head. Iran Kunda, that's it. Again, was going to try it, didn't want to get it wrong. He looks brilliant. Just cracking business. Watford always seems to do great business. So I suppose it is kind of, they always seem to finish in the middle because they just can't keep a stable manager. But hopefully for their sake, Pezzolano is the guy they can keep stable, and yeah, they'll be fine. But Elliott, 21st for Watford for you.
They feel like they've steadily been sort of getting worse. Like they were for a long time. They're a team you really didn't want to face because they just pass you off the park, they cut through you at will. They were just one of the better teams in the division. It felt like at some point they were going to get promoted, and they've sort of steadily been getting worse. And when that happens, there's usually like what I would call like a flashpoint season where something goes wrong and they really struggle, and sort of that's their wake up call. And I think they will be in a bit of a relegation battle. I mean, maybe 21st is a little low. I do think they're gonna have a bit of a struggle this season. Like I don't even think it's like, say, the quality of the player they've got generally is pretty good, but feels like they've taken some gambles with their recruitment. A lot of young players, and it only takes if one of those comes off, that's great. But like if then the other 3 don't, or whatever it is. Like some of them don't come off, especially in the forward areas. I think they're going to struggle. They got a new manager who you say not totally enthused by when you look at his record elsewhere. It's okay, but it's not outstanding, and it just feels like things are steadily getting worse for Watford, and at some point it's going to come to a head, and I feel like that might be this season.
Similar story for you, Ollie, there.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything Elliott said, really. I mean, you look back at the last few seasons of Watford, and they've seemed to have started pretty well. I mean, and, you know, the sort of threatening mid-table, even a tilt at the playoffs. But then as soon as the mid-season point comes, they just seem to fall off the face of the planet. And I don't know. I don't think they've signed enough. Like you said, they've taken too many punts this season. Certainly on youth, they don't look massively strong in defence either. To be honest, I think we talked about it earlier about when we were talking about Hull City. They're going to concede goals, and it's if they can outscore teams. I don't think they'll get relegated, but I certainly don't think they've got enough quality to trouble anywhere near the playoffs or anything like that. So I think, yeah, I mean, 19th maybe a little bit detrimental to Watford, to be honest. But yeah, I don't think they'll get much higher than that.
I think I very much banked on these young players being good because I see your point, but I do rate the ones they brought in quite highly. So for me, I couldn't really put them much lower than there. But 18th overall is our agreement. Oh.
I definitely think it's fair to have them higher and say, like, I think these players are good. I'm just not as convinced as you are, so I've got them lower. I think it's like completely reasonable to have them higher.
Absolutely, yeah. So -4 places compared to last season if our average is correct. 17th, Portsmouth. Fairly agreeable here, but Elliott, again, you've gone high with a team that many people wouldn't put. So you've got Oxford and Pompey into the top half of the division, which I think will be a very unpopular opinion. But I mean, I guess I'll let you give your justification for 12th place.
Again, it comes down to manager quality, and I just think, but Mousinho, I just think he's an excellent manager. He's got a defined style of play, which I think a lot of the Championship is just having a style of play that you know how to execute more than it is player quality. I mean, it was how many times have we said in the last half an hour, like, oh, Stoke, they've got player quality, but are they actually any good? We talk about Watford having player quality, but like, what do they do with it? Whereas Portsmouth, they know what they are, they know what they want to do. I think that actually goes a really long way at this level to just finding your way to mid-table. Again, maybe I'm overreaching with 12th, but I don't think there's like glaring problems with that squad. They've got a really good manager. They finished pretty safe last season. I don't see any reason why they would be worse other than you saying like, oh, maybe the league's better. But I think with a year's experience, actually Portsmouth will figure it out and maybe climb a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think my worry with them, as I sort of said with a few teams, I just don't think the quality's there to be able to push them as high into the top half of the table. I love Mousinho. I mean, I put him really high. I can't exactly where in our manager video I put him, but he was definitely in the top sort of 6-7 managers in the league.
Yeah, I had him like 6, I think.
Yeah, he's a really good manager, and I think he will get the best out of that squad. I just think some of the signs they're making are a bit question. I mean, they signed Ferrenby and Keeney from Swansea. For us, obviously, it was pretty poor. But again, I see the vision because he's a pressing machine, and obviously in a Mousinho system, that's exactly what you want. It's just players who just run the feet off all game and just go for it. But as I said, there were flashes. I mean, even when I saw Pompey on New Year's Day, one of the worst away days I've done in my entire life, but they beat us 4-0 and it was so comfortable for them at home. I think they need to sort out their away form to be able to push them. As I said, home form will keep them in the league 100% without a doubt, but their away form will be what, for me, depends. Obviously, last season it was terrible. Will depend on whether they can reach the heights of 12th, if they can improve on it. I think, Ollie, you'll probably be in a similar space to me, putting them 1
point. Absolutely, mate. You bang on there. You touched on what I was going to say. Their key assets, Fratton Park, isn't it? It's you go there and you're going to find it hard to win, even to come away with points. Really, you're so on top of the ground, and it's such an atmosphere. It's a bit of a carnival, isn't it? Really, when you go down there, and they just make it hard. They just make it really, really hard. And then obviously when they got players with the quality such as Josh Murphy was fantastic last season for them. If he can sort of replicate that form going into this season, and certainly if he can take it away, I think Portsmouth will be all right.
100%. So last season was 16th. So we have got him on sort of slight decrease, but more or less the same as what we saw from them last season, which I think is what would be probably quite a popular opinion with most people. 16th, and this is probably one of the biggest drop-offs in the league, apart from Ollie, because, as I said, there are some vast differences here, and I think this will be our biggest talking point of the whole video, because so Ollie has them 8th, I've got them 21st, Elliott has them relegated in 22nd, and Chris has them in a stable mid-table 12th. So we average out at 16th, which would be a 9-place decrease, but if you look to mine or Elliott's predictions, you're looking more in a double-figure decrease from last season, but Ollie would only have them as a -1, so I guess I'll start with you, Ollie, because I feel like 8th for Blackburn is going to be a really, really rogue shout.
Yeah, maybe. I just think it's maybe a legacy thing from my prediction there. It's you look at Blackburn as a proper solid core championship team, don't you? You go to Ewood Park, it's difficult to win there. And they seem to travel quite well, especially on your Tuesday nights. They always seem to pull off a draw every now and again. I just think they might carry that on again this season. I think last season they were worried, looking on the socials and stuff, about before the start of the season. Blackburn were probably worried. Their fans were concerned about relegation last season. I think they've got a better feel about the club this season. Maybe I'm wrong, judging by the other predictions, but I think they'll maybe replicate what they did last season, to be honest, and maybe have another tilt at the playoffs.
But put it this way: one of us, the three, is going to look stupid, or two of us three in this case. Because me and Elliot
I've not gone that rogue. I mean, Chris has only gone 12th, so it's not that much different.
Yeah. I mean, Elliot, you'll probably see
it's
a
like
lot of what
16,
I have to say about it, but
yeah, I think. They do have good players, and then you look through the squad, and you like Tronstad, Cantwell. These are excellent midfielders, but I just don't trust Ismail to use them properly. I think Ismail is still coasting off 1 or 2 good years at Barnsley, and I think ever since he's really struggled. His style of football is difficult to watch, and if you start losing while playing that sort of style, things get toxic very quickly. I know it's. When I've talked about Gary Rowett, I said, they're going to finish 11th because they're going to counter-attack the way there. It sounds a little odd to then say the opposite about Blackburn, but I think Rowett has sort of perfected his style, and I think Ismail has shown that his actually isn't as effective, and it's miserable to watch, which is a terrible mix. I say there is a world where they can make me look really stupid and they finish in the top half again, and I wouldn't actually be that surprised. It's just I just think I don't trust Ismail. I think if things start to go wrong again, that's kind of how I look at things. If things start to go wrong, do I think they can right the ship? And I don't think Ismail can. They do have the quality to steer clear of relegation. It's just, do they know how to use it? And I know they finished well last season, but I think a lot of that is to do with the momentum and the manager change. And I just got a bad feeling about Blackburn. I would be a bit worried if I was a Blackburn fan.
Same. I just sort of agree with everything you said. I don't necessarily see the quality of that squad as much as maybe you do. I think they've been ram-raided by John Eustace for a lot of players. I think there's some key parts there. Like Beck was brilliant for them last season. He's now gone to Derby. Obviously, Danny Bath's gone to Derby. Andy Weiman's gone to Derby. So they've lost a lot of their starting players from last season, which on paper weren't even that great to begin with, especially like Weiman and Bath.
If Weimann is the difference maker, then maybe you deserve to go down.
I just think I'm not convinced of this, as you said, Ishmael. I don't think he'll get the best out of that team at all. But I still think their ceiling for me is about where I put Watford in sort of 14th, 15th, even with a good season. John Eustace is a miracle worker, and I don't see him working many miracles with this team personally. So yeah, Blackburn for me, I've gone 21st. I think they'll just survive the drops. I think Oxford is slightly worse than them, but I can't see them being all too great. And I think there's still more departures to come as well, players like Lewis Travis as well. So I think it's going to be interesting for Blackburn. So yeah, -9 drop off from last season. I think that will be the biggest one we see all day. Next up, QPR. 15th on average, Ollie in 8th. I think this is the first team I've actually predicted to be top half of the table. I've got them in 12th. So 15th. So we've actually, for the first time, we've put them exactly where they finished last season. Dead on, 0 change on average, obviously. Ollie, you've gone a bit lower with 18th.
Yeah. Who have they brought in, QPR? I mean, what had changed from last season? I don't think they've brought in a massive amount, have they? I think they've lost a couple of key players as well. Kelman obviously going to Charlton's a big one. I know he didn't get massive goals in the Championship, but I think when you're taking a little amount of goals out of a team who don't score many anyway, and then not replacing that. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to go down. I think they're probably going to have enough to stay up. But they've not done anything. They've not done enough for me to be anywhere near mid-table playoffs.
For me, Kwame Poku is the big one in terms of signings. I think, and also Julian Stefan, as much as I think he's maybe slightly overrated, especially by the QPR fans, that's a guy with experience of dragging a team into the European football in the French First Division, and a team that Strasbourg as well, that probably most people didn't expect them to. So he's got a lot of pedigree as far as coming into this division. When you compare it to like Pezzolano, for example, who hasn't really done much. You got Stefan, who's taken a team to European football in the top division in France, which is a huge achievement to have on sort of your CV. I think the attack is very exciting with QPR. Obviously, you've got Poku, Dembele, and Chair that now in an attacking three. I think they need a striker. Looking at Kone, wouldn't be surprised if they go in for that. If you get someone like him with them three behind him, it could be really, really exciting to watch. Obviously, Poku has his injury concerns, so does Chair. But defence, for me, is where they're let down slightly. I'm not entirely convinced with the strength, especially the depth of their defence. It's an okay starting back four from what I've seen on their provisional ones. But the second a few injuries creep into there, they could be in trouble. So I've gone with a steady 12. I think they'll be good. I just don't think they'll be brilliant.
I think the thing with the strike force as well at QPR is obviously the players they've brought in. They're all League One players. So, I mean, there is a jump. I know there is a jump, isn't there? But it's whether that risk pays off and they can bring them goals from League One into the Championship.
Poku was a League One player, but
he was way too good, yeah.
He wasn't really a League One player. Like every game I've watched him in League One, he was just so clearly better than League One. There's very few players in League One who can both control the ball and run fast, and he can do both of those. Yeah. So immediately puts him as a Championship footballer. I think he'll be perfectly fine at this level. I think they're paying him a fortune to do so he better be. I think QPR will be perfectly fine. They're a team, though, when I made this, I was like, I sort of filled in everyone around them, and wherever there was a spot empty, I sort of put in QPR. I think they're really hard to predict. I think they'll just sort of be in that sort of mid-table bracket. I don't foresee a particularly exciting season this season. Maybe next year they can push on if they keep Stefan.
100%. So first time we've actually got a technical agreement that they're going to finish in exactly the same position they finished last season in 15th, but yeah, slightly different on a couple of us. Chris, obviously agreeing with you, Ollie, on the 18th place. Nearly a full sweep, very close. Derby in 14th. Personally, I probably would change this now after the last week. I'd probably bump them a bit higher because John Eustace is a fantastic manager. They've made some good signings. My big worry personally with Derby is they spent a lot of money on Aguiman, and as someone who watches a lot of MLS football, I don't think he's good. I mean, I've said this to Elliott multiple times. I just don't rate him as at all, really. Not at this level. I don't think he's all that great. I think spending however much money it was on him was too much. And that's the guy they're going to lean onto. I know they got Carlton Morrison as well, but again, just wasn't great last season in the Championship. You just sort of banking.
Got Brewster in as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they view him more as a winger. I think a lot of their fans have sort of said he's going to play on the wing, which makes sense. But again, not very prolific since he left Swansea off for his loan spell. With us, he's not really done much in his career since then. Sort of similar story as McBurney, really. But yeah, for me, I'm just not entirely convinced. I don't know. I like Eustace. I think he's brilliant. I think the squad is there. I just think goals will be their issue because obviously they're going to lean on Aguiman for a lot of them, and I don't think he's going to be able to bring them there. So we're all pretty much in agreement here. But Elliott, 14th is technically the highest of the three of us.
Yeah, I think they're amazing, and I just think, I basically echo what you said. The squad is okay to good. I'm not like massively excited by the squad. It's just they've got a good manager. Who, as you mentioned, signed a lot of the players. He knows.
Yeah.
So they'll just sort of he can just sort of slot them in, keep doing what he's doing. He'll be fine. Derby will be fine. It's kind of, I don't really have much else to say about them. They'll be fine.
It's fine. Ollie,
I mean, technically speaking, they stayed up on the last day, didn't they, last season? I think it was
yeah.
I mean, I didn't, probably not really, but technically they did. They've obviously addressed they think they've addressed the goal scoring concerns with the new players you've brought in. Obviously, James, you're not quite as convinced as some of the pundits who have been writing about them. Again, same as QPR for me. They're not going to struggle. They're not going to challenge. I think they're a bit meh. They'll be all right.
Yeah.
If we could only do a whole episode on how much I think Aguiman will struggle in the Championship, how much of an opinion I've got. Yeah,
we'll have to come to season review at the end of the season when you've got 25 goals and they've got
100%. I'm like a right idiot. I can only go what I've seen, but no, yeah, I think just it's sort of average. Really, we've all sort of said 5-place increase for them. They probably take that, but I think my thing with Derby is I think they're overrating quite a lot of their signings. I think Bobby Clark is a great footballer, but I don't think he's going to be like, wow, this guy's going to drag us up the Championship table, for example. Just how I saw the reaction to that signing, or Rhian Brewster, for example. They're just okay to good Championship players, but they're not like we're going to be pushing. I've seen a lot of their fans saying we could be in the playoffs, and I think that's
just been reading about that this afternoon. They say a lot of the Derby fans they're really convinced they're going to be playoffs. Not for me.
Yeah, they know their squad better than us. Maybe they're going to be right and we're going to look stupid. I'm resigned to it.
Next up, Bristol City, and I mean we haven't even got Chris here to justify this one, but a bit of a mental 7th place one not. But according to last season, it wouldn't seem too out of place. But it does look out of place when Elliott, you've put them in 19th, and me and Ollie have both agreed in 16th.
Yeah, I mean, didn't like the managerial signing, as we talked about. I think a lot of where I place him does come down to the manager. I think I'm sort of realizing that in retrospect, that a lot of the time I'm like, I don't trust this manager to get the best out of the team, because I've seen us struggle so many times. We've had bad managers and then sign a good manager and turn what looked like a terrible squad into a decent one, vice versa. I'm not particularly keen on the managerial signing. I don't look at the squad and think, yeah, there's enough there to overcome that and think like they're going to be amazing. Like they clearly have a good squad because they were 6th last season. Clearly these players are quality. But the Championship's so volatile, and if you just start badly with the manager who doesn't start well, you can really quickly end up in that sort of like that soup at the bottom of the table where like you're not quite relegated, but you've had a poor season. And you say that the quality of the league we think has got better. I just sort of trust a lot of the other teams more than I trust Bristol City, I should say, to do something.
I was going to say, I'll just make sure you say that one, because otherwise we'll have angry comments of Bristol City fans. No, I really like Liam Manning. I think that plays a lot into this. I think they horrendously overachieved last season to what they should have done. I don't think that squad was playoff quality, and they got found out very quickly when they got into the playoffs that it wasn't. I just think, as you said, I agree with you in the manager's video. I don't particularly rate Struber all too highly. As a manager, I think they're going to struggle. I don't think they'll be terrible. As I said, it's quite a big. I mean, I got them a 10-place drop off the last season, but I don't think they'll be anywhere near the playoffs personally. And Ollie, you seem to agree.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Bang on. I think they got massively overachieved, like you said, last season. Not massively overwhelmed with the signings they've brought in. They brought in that kid from Preston who just doesn't score goals. Reese, is it?
Yeah,
Emil Reese.
I don't see how they can replicate what they did last season. If they did, fair play to them, but I just don't think they've got enough quality in there. I think they'll be mid-table obscurity for me.
I mean, yeah, we were sort of 13th is what we average out at, which is probably the most Bristol City prediction ever bar last season, really. I think it'd be a pretty standard, they're 13th sorted most years. The Chris's 7th definitely drags them up, however. I'd love to know.
Interested to hear Chris's view on that one, actually.
Maybe we'll get it on Twitter or something after, just to see why.
Get him in the YouTube comments.
Yeah, Chris, when you watch this, put it in the comments. If you watch
Stop fighting people.
As to why you put them in 7th. But yeah, so 7th place drop off on average to last season for Bristol City. Next up is Wrexham and Elliott again. This is probably where you're going to get your angry comments. 18th for you. I mean, we average out at 12th because obviously us three are sort of in agreement on where they're going to finish. But 18th is an interesting one.
What I said to you guys before we went live was it all depends on when they sack Parkinson.
As well.
It will. I mean, he's not going to. I don't see a world where he's there at the end of the season. I'll put it that way. I think he is. To be honest, I didn't think he was a particularly good manager for League One. I think they got out of League One purely off player quality because the way they played did not get the best out of those players. Like their squad was way too good, and they did finish second, so I guess I can't be too critical, but I don't think they looked like they were a level above Wickham for most of the season, Charlton at the end of the season. I don't think they were a level above those, which they probably should have been with a good manager. The style they play, I don't think will translate well to the Championship at first. They have made some excellent signings. Lewis O'Brien in midfield, excellent footballer. But what's the point in signing a ball playing midfielder if it's just going to be looking up and the ball's flying over his head all the time? Do you know what I mean? Like you to get the best out of these midfielders, you've got to get them the ball. And Wrexham, they don't like having the ball. At least they didn't in League One. Like they were winning games with like 30% possession, like quite consistently.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that being a winning strategy in the Championship. But I do think they will replace Parkinson with somebody decent and probably be fine, to be honest. I just think they'll do worse than Charlton. I simply do.
For me, I had these lower down when we first got told we were making this video, which about a week and a bit ago. I had them quite low. And it's just been creeping up sort of every day when they've been signing better players and better players and better players. I mean, like Lewis O'Brien, as you said, I watched him last season at Swansea, joke of a footballer. He's brilliant. And like, he will do really, really well for them. But as you said, the struggle with the system might be because obviously with Swans, we play a bit more of a grounded possession style of football, which suits him down to a T. But he connects everything so well. So even if they try and change it up, he's going to be so handy for them. I think, is it Kikachi, however you say it, the left back from Italy? I think he's going to be brilliant for them. Kiefer Moore's an interesting one. I think for Wales, he's an absolute donkey, but obviously a Championship experienced striker. You can't ask for too much more. And they've already got Sam Smith in the building, so he's already, that's a solid striker you've already got there. And then also like Nathan Broadhead linked as well. That would be a brilliant signing for them. He is really, really good at this level. So I think it just depends on how much they keep spending. I think 11th for now, but my big worry with Wrexham and why I refuse to put them any higher than this is Phil Parkinson, because he hasn't managed in this level for a reason for a very long time. As I said, it could work. I don't see it working because I don't think it's sustainable the way they play football. Obviously, you can't argue, as you said, you can't argue it's too much. They've had 3 promotions on the trot. You can't really say too much bad about them. But yeah, looking forward to the forcing of a Welsh derby with us and Wrexham this season. I'm not really. It's going to be really annoying. But yeah, 11th for me. Ollie, you've gone 10th, so the highest of the three of us.
Just to touch on Phil Parkinson, I mean, as a Hull City fan, I think the less I say about Phil Parkinson's probably the better. I agree. I can't see him lasting the full season out there. They have signed really well, though, and it just depends on how he can coach that. I mean, Conor Cody's a great signing at Championship level. I know how old is he now, Conor Cody? Late 20s, early 30s? He's cracking signing for the Championship. Say again.
He's been around for ages.
He's got to be at least.
I'll look it up while you talk.
He's a great. I think he's a great signing. He really reads the game really well. I mean, and I think they've picked off from some decent players from obviously they signed Ryan Hardy from Plymouth, who was a good player for them last season. And I just think he's winning breeds winning, doesn't it? And Wrexham are just so used to that feeling. I can't see them. Back down there in 18th. I think they're going to have too much quality. Maybe a shot at the playoffs, depending on if they bring anybody else in. But again, a lot of it, like what you two guys have just said, a lot of it depends on the Parkinson situation.
You just reminded me that Ryan Hardy still plays for signed for them. I completely forgot about that signing because it was so early on in the window.
Yeah, I mean, surely you can't see. I mean, Parkinson, I can't stand him. There you go. I've said it, but it is what it is.
How old is Conor Cody?
Conor Cody's 32.
32, but still a cracking signing for the Championship.
He moves like a 37-year-old.
Great. He reads the game well, though, man. He's class. I like him at this level.
The Championship, you can't.
I think they'll be fine. I think they certainly won't go down. Whether they can get a little bit more quality and have a shot at the playoffs, fair play. But Parkinson's got to go.
Yeah. So we're pretty much in agreement.
Just out of football.
They're capped off because of Phil Parkinson. So we're all going to like absolute idiots when he guides them to a playoff finish or something stupid now. Or we're going to like absolute geniuses when he has them in the relegation zone after 3 months and then they get sacked. I think they'll be on a short tether with him anyway. I think if it goes to a month and a bit and they do really badly, I think he'll be gone very quickly.
Yeah.
Moving on to my Swansea City, and Chris with a very optimistic sixth. Sat here in a Swansea shirt, and I wouldn't even consider putting us that high. We average out 11th first, so exactly the same as last season, and it sounds like a similar old story as a Swansea fan. I suppose I should go first, really. I've got us 10th. I think we've made some really, really good signings in this window. I think Melker Vidal and Zidane Anusa from Sweden are both going to be brilliant. I think Ethan Galbraith was arguably one of the most talented players in League One last season, so to bring him in for not a lot of money, I think that's a really good deal for us as well. I think my big worry with us, and what it has been basically since we sold Joel Perreault to Leeds, is we don't have a consistent goal scorer in our team. I think we force Liam Cullum up front when he's better in the 10. I think Zamva Potnik's not quite at the level. I also think Ronaldo on the right-hand side is just nowhere near good enough to be starting every game for a team that wants to be in the playoffs. He lacks so much creativity that we need. His returns are okay. He does the dirty work really well. But for me, I just think we've sort of turned into a Bristol City and a Preston, really. We're just perennial average team of the Championship, sort of stuck in 11th, 10th every season. I think if we do get the big striker that we're reportedly linked with, even like Richard Cohen, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. But apparently we're linked with better strikers and a decent winger as well. So if we get them two in, I can really see us challenging maybe closer to what Chris said, maybe like 8th or 7th. But I've put us 10th. I think you two you've gone fairly similar, 13th, 15th. Ollie, 13th for Swans.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, you've pretty much summed it up, haven't you? Really? I mean, they're lacking. They lack goals. That's the simple thing, isn't it? I don't think that. It depends who they bring in, doesn't it? I mean, if they're going to get that striker in, then I think that'll sort of put the season in sort of perspective for them. Really, I can't see them getting anywhere higher than what I've said, 13th, really, unless they bring in a real prolific striker. But where does that come from now at this stage, just before the season's about to start? I think they'll be about mid-table.
Similar for you, Elliott?
Yeah, I sort of had worries about the centre forward, which is why I've gone a little lower. And the squad looks a little thin as well. I'm sure there's more players to bring in before the window, which is why I haven't gone too bullish on that. But if the window ended tomorrow and this was your squad, I would be a bit more worried, I think. Like you say, the deals you have done I quite like the look of, but desperate need of a centre forward. I heard today, I think Richard Cohen might be in a Leicester. That was a rumour that was going around. It seems
it's
very
not
strange.
us. Our manager said today in a press conference it's not going to be us. Yeah,
there was some rumour about Leicester, which I found very strange. But I mean, he would kind of be perfect, I would imagine. He's a big, bustling centre forward. He's sort of a bit of an all-rounder. Yes, he tailed off at the end of last season, but he was injured. He's got something about him. I think he would actually have been perfect. If you'd signed him, I'd be a bit more like, okay, yeah, no, I can see you getting into sort of the 11th, 10th. But yeah, the squad's just a little underwhelming. Even though you do have a Brazilian player called Ronald, which is fantastic.
Yeah, he's not great, is he? I do have concerns.
Great name.
I do have concerns with Alan Sheehan as well. It's a very big unknown. Obviously, caretaker managers don't tend to work out brilliant when you make them permanent. I think the style of football he tries to play, it can be good, but it's very unlike us at times. You don't really often think of Swansea in a team that's lumping the ball up the pitch or stuff like that. You normally think of us as a team that passes it around 24/7. Obviously, from our Graham Potter and Russell Martin days, since Roberto Martinez or way back when, that's sort of been the way we play football, and that's how we climbed up the divisions doing so. So I think it's also a big pull for players to sign as well. I think identity is huge to pull players in. So I think we don't want to abandon that under any circumstances. But I think 10th is pretty. I'm always going to be slightly optimistic with my own team, I suppose. But I understand your concerns completely because I've got the same concerns. I just think if we get a striker in, a new winger, and maybe a bigger midfielder, because we've got quite a small midfield. I think maybe a bigger midfielder and then just some depth, really, as you said, just bring in some players to bulk the squad up a bit. I think we could then push on to be a bit higher. But I think 11th is fair and the same as last season. 10th place, Middlesbrough, and this one's sort of divided a bit purely because obviously Chris and me have them way down 10th, 13th, 14th for us, Ollie. And even you, Elliott, you've got them in the top 10, but Ollie's 7th, so you've got them just missing out on the playoffs. So that would be for them a 3-place increase on last season.
I think you build from the back, don't you? And I think they've signed really well. I'm going to be biased. I mean, Alfie Jones is an outstanding defender, and to get him for $3 million to show up that back line at Middlesbrough, I think they've got a great signing in Alfie Jones, and I think we can really look forward to seeing him on the ball. Reads the game really well. It's just a smooth, really good centre half, and he can even play in centre defensive midfield if you want him to. Cracking player. I know that you build, like I say, you build from the back. They look like a good side. They look solid across the back, to be honest. I think the 10th, 7th might be a bit optimistic. Maybe not a massive amount of goals in there. Azaz still there, good solid Championship player. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay. Just missing out on the playoffs.
Similar for you, Elliott.
Yeah, I considered putting him that high. Rob Edwards, I'm not too keen on the managerial signing, but you look at the squad and it's kind of hard to argue that they'll be worse than 10th. I think upper end of mid-table, there's a chance they get into playoffs if things click. I mean, Rob Edwards has been promoted before. It's just ever since then, everything's gone wrong. So it's kind of like, how do you judge Rob Edwards? If you think he's good, this team can be playoffs. If you think he's not so good, this team's probably like mid-table to lower mid-table. I've sort of gone in the middle of that and just sort of plumped for where they went last season and thought, seems about right. They have improved the squad, but obviously everyone else has improved their squads.
I just think keep hold of Hayden Hackney. That's a key, but it's not looking likely, is it? I mean, it depends how much they want for him, really. But I mean, 20-odd million been touted for him. It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
they agreed to deal with Ipswich, but he chose to stay. There was a rumor Man United wanted him, which would be
wow.
They'd probably get 60 million then. So.
Yeah, Hackney's a big one. I'm just not convinced entirely with this transfer window. I think they've had a poor window for what they would have expected going into it. They've missed out on a lot of targets. I do like Tommy Conway, but had they got Chuba Akpom over the line, I think that would have been a huge addition to their attack. We saw how good he was last time he played for Middlesbrough. I think that would have been a big difference. I think you look at players like Morgan Whittaker, he struggled last season, albeit there's reasons behind it. Aidan Morris, as an MLS fan, is a brilliant footballer. I think he's probably the highest ceiling in that entire team. Genuinely, I could see him being a Premier League footballer very, very soon. Finn Azaz is great for this level as well. So I do like the squad, but I'm really not high on Rob Edwards at all. I think I just don't see them being much of a threat. As you said, it could click absolutely, or vice versa. They could sack Rob Edwards halfway through and then they could fly at the table again with someone else. But I'm just not entirely convinced with Edwards. I think they need a few more players in before I could consider putting them any higher than sort of mid-table. I just don't see them challenging with a not very convincing attack and a defence that I think needs some work as well. As much as you said they got Alfie Jones in as a good footballer, I think there's still work to be done there. So, yeah, for me, 13th, I think just bang average for Middlesbrough this season, as they have been sort of one of them teams who flirt with Perth for a bit and then sort of fall off towards the end of the season, which seems to be a pattern for them since they were in the playoffs beforehand. But yeah, 13th for me, but 10th overall, which means we have them again with zero difference compared to 24-25, exactly where they finished last year on average.
Yep.
9th place, Millwall. And again, this is only a one decrease on what they finished last season in 8th. Me and Elliott, we've both agreed with 9th. Ollie, you've gone a bit lower with 12th, but we all have them in the top half of the table. 12th place, are you maybe not as high on them as me and Elliott are?
It's the goals again for me. I mean, it seems like I'm repeating myself a lot for a lot of these clubs, really. But where did the goals come from? I mean, I think they scored less than 50 goals last season, that's relegation form, really. It's I don't see where they're going to get the goals from again this season. I think, but hopefully for them, they'll score more than what did they get? 48, 49 goals or something like that, which is mental.
But they still finished 8th.
It's bonkers, isn't it? It's absolutely bonkers.
So, maybe they don't need goals.
Yeah.
What I would say
I'd put them in
Ivanovic.
Come on. Yep.
Ivanovic is a brilliant footballer, and they've just brought Josh Coburn in as well. I'm not saying he's the most prolific of strikers, but I think there's goals, especially in Ivanovic. I think there's a 20-goal a season capable striker in him. So I think that might be where they're relying on them goals going for if he stays, because I know he's got interest from elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I tie him in with the rest of the mid-table lot that I've put in there. There's nothing overwhelming about them, but I don't think they'll struggle. If they scrape top 10, I think they've done pretty well.
I find it hard to put them any lower than this, to be honest, because I was considering it, and I just think they've got all the fundamentals to be a team that could push for the playoffs this season. I think they've signed really well. I don't necessarily agree with the fee pay for Josh Coburn, but when he's quite key to Neil's system, I suppose it's worth paying on their sake. I think, as I said, I really do like Ivanovic. I think he's brilliant, but I think just overall that squad around him is just quite. I think it's sneakily good. People don't realise how good that squad actually is. I think the big one for them will be whether Tanganga stays. Obviously, he's got a minimal release clause in his contract, like an almost stupidly minimal release clause in his contract. But I think if he stays in that defence, they will be a problem. I think Alex Neil is the best manager for them at the minute as well. I really do think Millwall will be there or thereabouts in that. I think you could even argue higher than what we've put them, to be honest. I think there is definitely potential with this team to be really, really good. And there's like Elliott, you're on a similar sort of level.
Yeah, I think there's just too many good teams, like genuinely good teams. Like the 8 teams I got above them, I'm pretty confident in. But I think Millwall are the best of the rest. Like you say, that squad's sneakily good. And it's just like one of the hardest away days in the division. Like it is one of the away days you look forward to least. And that is just so important. Like if you win most of your home games, you will just finish in the top half. Like that's if you just win your home games, you'll be fine. And they're just a horrible team to play against. It's a horrible place to go. They're big, they're strong, they're powerful, they're quick. They're just horrible to play against, and that just puts you as one of the most difficult teams to play in the league. They should just finish in the top half. You said they could finish higher but I think the teams above them just have got more quality.
Well, we'll move on to the teams above them first. It's Norwich, and this is, I believe, the first time we have a team in the playoffs, and it's from me putting them 6th. A bit of differential here. Chris,
and somebody had Swansea in the playoffs, I think.
Oh yeah, sorry, Chris did have Swansea in the playoffs. Less of that on the better, really, and I was Swansea fan. That was a bit outlandish. Yeah, I've gone 6th on Norwich. As I said, I really like Liam Manning. I think he's a brilliant manager, and I think, again, pronunciation is terrible, but the striker they brought in looks really, really good. And I think
from Bromby.
Yeah, because like
I'm not going to try and pronounce his name either.
Kvistgarden. It'd be Kvistgarden, yeah.
Kvistgarden, yeah, however you say it. He's brilliant. I've got him confused. Kieran Gard's the one from Watford. Yeah, Kvistgarden. Yeah. I think he's really, really good. I think they're not going to miss Saints and Sargent, if Sargent even leaves. I don't know what's going on with him at the minute. But I don't think they're going to miss them as much as people think they are. I think they've replaced really well, and there's still so much money to spend from them two sales as well. Obviously, Sargent hasn't gone through yet, but I imagine it's more of a when than an if for if he leaves this window. But I just think with Manning in, he's a great manager. They've recruited well. The team was already good. And I think they underachieved severely last season, finishing 13th compared to what they should have done. I think Norwich, for me, will just sneak into the playoffs in 6th. I think there's a possibility. Elliott maybe a bit more reasonable than 6th in 8th, but I can't see him any lower than sort of top. I think top 10 should be their absolute floor this season with how good that squad looks and how good
I nearly put them in playoffs for very similar reasons. It's a squad with depth, with quality, with a very good manager behind it. It's just how quickly can Manning click with this team? How quickly do they adjust? If they do, they should be one of the 6th best teams in the division. It's just, I think they'll take a little while to adjust and go for a run later on, and then we'll see like what they're really about. I say I like the look of that Kvistgarden. I like the look of Liam Manning. Just think this team will be a lot better than last year, and I think I might be being slightly conservative with 8th. I think they could finish higher, but we'll see.
I mean, Ollie, you've gone 11th there, so a bit lower than Norwich than what me and Elliott seem to believe.
Yeah, sorry, my AirPods have just decided to pack in, so I'll just put those on. I think Sainz is a massive loss. I know they've got a lot of money in from him, and I know they've brought Diallo in as well, who's absolutely rapid, isn't he? But I think a lot of it you guys have touched upon it. It depends on how quickly Manning can get him gelling. They've got potential for playoffs. Let's not be about the bush. They're a good, solid side. They've got some quality in there. It's just how quickly they can gel together. I do think Sainz is a massive loss, though.
Yeah.
So 8th is what we've agreed on here. So it would be a 5-place increase on last season. So definitely one of the teams to watch out for in the league, as will be the rest of the teams we speak about in this video. 7th place, West Brom. And this one's fairly unanimous between us all, really. Not one of us putting them lower than 10th. Not one of us putting higher than 7th. Elliott, you've gone the highest out of all of us. 2-place increase it would be if they were to finish 7th in the division. And for me, that's a really exciting manager with an exciting team is how I look at it. And they are just known for being in and about that playoff conversation. I just think having a young manager might be their drawback in the end of it, and the squad that maybe just needs a little bit more time before they push for the playoffs. But I couldn't be higher on Ryan Mason. He's probably one of the managers I'm the highest on. I just didn't put him very high in our rankings video because obviously it's just a massive unknown. But the amount of players who've come through Spurs and credited Ryan Mason is silly, really. And I think he's got all the fundamentals to be a fantastic manager. So I think 8th is fair. With a few more signings, I could see them definitely challenging as well. But Elliott 7th, so slightly higher than me and Ollie, I suppose, with just 1 place above me, 2 places above Ollie.
Well, what Ollie's been saying for a lot of these teams, he doesn't know where the goals are coming from. You do not have that issue with West Brom. Like, you look at that team and you go, right, there's goals from DK, there's goals from Madger, there's hopefully goals from Hedgerbo. You know that, fellows will chip in with a few. Like, there's goals in this team. It's just so, like, I think there's maybe a little bit of squad depth lacking that they'll hope to address in the rest of the window. But their starting 11 is a very high quality starting 11, and they've got options off the bench, certainly, to change a game going forwards. They should be pretty fine because they'll score goals, and that's a big part of it. They should just score enough goals to finish between 5th and 8th, I would suggest.
Yeah, I think I've probably been a bit negative on these, to be honest. I'm quite excited about West Brom. I really like Ryan Mason. He's still our record signing as well. Just thought I'd throw that in there. I know that didn't end too well for him. Yeah, I think 14.5 million or something like that was spent for him.
Wow.
But yeah, I would have liked to have seen us take a punt on him. But I think given our ownership sort of plan that they've got going on there, I don't think that was ever going to be the case. But no, I'm quite excited for these, and I think like when I first put this prediction together, I think was it back end of last week. I've probably done them a little bit of disservice, and I'm a little bit more. I think I'm sort of aiming now. I think if I was to do it again, I'd probably put them a few places higher up. They've got goals in them, haven't they? And like you say earlier as well, that's the key in this league. We've talked about it all the way through about the lack of goals in all the other teams. West Brom don't have that at all, do they? They're going to score goals, and I think they could well be in with a shot at the playoffs. I know I've got Nam there, but if it was to do the predictions again now, I think I'd have probably gone for about fourth, fifth, maybe. Like the look of this setup they've got here, and it's whether what Mason can do with it. Like him a lot though. I think he's got a lot to prove, and it wouldn't surprise me, given what the players and the staff he's played with previously and the stuff that they said about him, he'll probably be managing Premier League in the not too distant future.
Just spotted it there, but we'll move on. Probably the controversial one from me and Chris, definitely, but I think me here is the big controversial one. We have our first relegated team from last season, Leicester City. I've just got them missing out on the playoffs here in 7th, and for me, I will say, before any Leicester fans come at me with bloody pitchforks and whatever, it's mainly leaning on them getting a pretty hefty points deduction. So if that doesn't happen, I would probably change just to put them in the playoffs. But that is my big worry. I also think there's a few gaps in that squad that need to be addressed, and there are still players who are going to be out of that squad by the time we get to the end of the transfer window. Also, I don't know how much money they can actually spend on players because I don't know what their restrictions are or what, even if they have any money to spend full stop, based on how badly screwed they are financially and have been for the past 4 years. But I just think them off the pitch issues will spill onto the pitch slightly, and I think they'll just miss out on the playoffs. But again, I would not be in any remote bit surprised if this is a team pushing even into the top 2 by the end of the season. I just think I've gone a bit conservative and just said I think the off the pitch issues will spill over. But you two both in agreement, 5th place, so both into the playoffs with Leicester.
Yeah, we've gone very similar. I mean, I feel similar. Go on.
I'll just say that I just think that there's still little with quality. Whether that gets picked off or not, I'm not sure. Obviously they've got Mavididi to come back in, and he's a cracking player. So certainly at championship level. Whether he gets picked off from them, I'm not sure. But I just think that they've certainly got a squad built well enough to get in the playoffs. And like you say, even a tilt at the top two wouldn't surprise me. But it depends if they get picked off again. But they've not really lost a massive amount, have they? I know they've lost Vardy and stuff, but that was coming a long time ago. But yeah, I think they'll be up there.
Yeah, they apparently that El Canous might be leaving, which would be a big loss. But if they get a pretty sizable fee for him and replace him, they will be fine. Like they will be one of the better teams in the division, but they have that points deduction. I don't think having them finishing 7th is ridiculous. I think having them finish 10th might be a bit silly, but maybe not. I think they are a playoffs level, probably like 3rd place level team. It's just they got that points deduction, and maybe it's going to get worse as well. But I mean that might push them down towards 10th if it goes really badly. But yeah, it's going to be tough because you've got that sort of mental hurdle to get over as well.
When are they sort of looking at getting the hearing for that points deduction? Is that as the season starts, or?
I have no idea.
No one knows.
It feels like it should be before the season starts, but
it's a real difficult one, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I will say is I'm also not entirely convinced on Cifuentes either. I think that might be dragging them down slightly. I think it doesn't scream a manager for a team. It's a bit like Ruben Sellers at Sheffield United, which we'll get on to. It doesn't scream a manager that should be managing a team like that, as far as like a team that you consider should be pushing for the title or at least promotion in this division. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he gets on, because I'm not entirely convinced. But yeah, just missing out for me. But overall, we land them in 6th, so our first team in the playoffs. Next up, and there probably isn't much to say about Coventry because they are just a good team with a good squad and look like they're going to be good again. 5th last season, we've got them 5th here again. That's where I've put them. That's where Chris put them. You to 6th. So again, there really isn't much differential. We've all got them in the playoffs. For me, yeah, it's just a really nice squad, and Frank Lampard proved last season he isn't one of these sort of Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard levels of manager where you're not entirely convinced. He's sort of risen above that now, and he's proven himself with yet another playoff finish, albeit another playoff loss. But I think this squad's just getting better and better as time goes on. I think Kesler Hayden's a great addition to defence. Yeah. I think Radoni will be the key one, whether he leaves or not. I think that might affect this slightly because he's so important to how they play. However, they've still got players like Matt Grimes in that midfield without Radoni, so I don't think they'll struggle too much, especially with a decent fee in for Radoni. Obviously, looking at Charlie Hughes from Hull as well for quite a hefty fee, so I think they'll be absolutely fine. And I don't
20 million plus. 20 million plus for Charlie Hughes.
If Hackney's 20 million, you ain't getting 20 million plus for somebody else.
That ain't going anywhere.
I mean, you two both in 6th, so again, we're all fairly similar on Coventry, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to say much more than good team. Lampard looks like a decent manager. They've got squad depth. They've got goals. There's kind of no issue there. You just don't see them beating the relegated teams.
Yeah, not much else to say really. Good solid side all over the park. Lampard's a cracking manager. He's applying himself really well now, isn't he? After a couple of weird appointments, but yeah, I think they'll be playoffs this season. I'm quite glad we've got them first game of the season, to be honest. Not giving much chance to get going, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so as we said, 5th place is our overall, so they will land pretty similar, we think, to what they landed last season. 4th place, Sheffield United, and a 1 place drop off the last season is what we're predicting here. But everyone apart from Elliott actually agrees that they're going to finish exactly where they finished last year. But again, it's another team where you sort of it's just my main worries with Sellers more than the squad. I think the squad is definitely there to be a automatic promotion title chasing team, but I think Ruben Sellers is just I'm not entirely sure. Not saying he's a bad manager, but I think I'm not convinced whether he's going to be the right manager for Sheffield United. Is more my worry with them. I don't know if you have similar thoughts, lads.
Yep.
The problem with Sellers is you've got 1 week he'll be fantastic and the performance you'll put in will be absolutely brilliant, and then the next week it'll be like a completely different team.
I suppose you can say because that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I liked what he did with us to a point, but then there's, like I said, there'd be other weeks where we'd be like, who the hell is this team, and what the hell has he done since last week? It's just a really strange one. They've got the squad though. I mean, the squad can certainly carry him up that league. It's whether Sayers can tie it all together for him. I think they've certainly got the squad to be challenging for even automatic.
Yep. I think if they'd kept Tommy Doyle, I'd be a lot more buoyant on them. They got him back. I did, yeah. I think, yeah, they'll be one of the best teams in the division. I think I have us above them because of Ruben Sellers. I think we have the superior manager.
I'm surprised he got that gig. I really am surprised he got the gig. It's given what he did with us last season. It's just like I say, given what he did with us last season, it didn't blow anybody away, did it? And then seeing him get linked with that, and I was like, oh, what are we not seeing?
I did say to you, Elliott, and our managers ones, I didn't really understand the Wilder second to begin with. So I think if they kept him, I'd probably have them in third, maybe even second here. But I think just concerns about Sellers, not saying he's a bad manager, I just don't see the fit working all too well, especially coming off of a Chris Wilder system. It's vastly different to a Ruben Sellers system. So I think that'll be an interesting transition.
Well, 1 week it might be.
Well, yeah. So they also lost Ahmed Hozic this week, and I think Gus Hamer's probably close to leaving as well, so that might cause some issues for them as well. So fourth place overall for us, so we're all sort of agree on third, Elliott, with just a little bit lower, which drags him down because in third, much to probably all the comments delight, so you can't come and harass us this time, Birmingham fans. Third place for Birmingham, Chris has them actually second in automatic promotion, but the rest of us agree they're going to be in the playoffs, and I suppose it's only fair if I let the Birmingham fan here start this one off. So Elliott, go for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, our owners have been pretty outwardly suggesting they want us to get promoted this year, which is, a brave thing to put out there before the season starts. But when you look at our squad, when I've said other teams don't have squad depth, we have 2 players for every position, bar left back, which we're going to sign a left back pretty soon. We've got, I think, if a lot of our season will hinge on how Furuhashi lands in the Championship. If he's half as good as he was in the SPL, if he's half as good in the Championship as he was in the SPL, we will be perfectly fine because he will score 20 goals and we will be fine. We today signed Marvin Duksch from Germany, who's got a very good record in the Bundesliga, as well as being a creative force. We've got Damari Gray, who spent his career in the Premier League. However I feel about the move, however anyone feels about the move, he was a Premier League footballer for a long portion of his career, I should say. And we've kept all of our best players from last season. I think a lot of the Championship isn't quite aware how good our midfield is. Pike and Iwata were far, far, far too good for League One. There wasn't a League One team who basically got the ball off us all year. Pike is an excellent footballer who will not look out of place in the top end of the Championship. Iwata, very similar. He's just a physical beast who's calm on the ball without being quite as creative a passer. And then we've added Tommy Doyle to that, who is just a wonderful footballer. Just somebody I'm just very much excited to watch. We were a little slow last year. That was the main concern, and we've just added pace everywhere. Phil Neumann defense is like the fastest brick wall you ever see. 6'4", but he's lightning quick. Bright Asayi Samuel, again, exactly the same, lightning quick. Damari Gray, still quick. Kanya Fujimoto, quick. Like, we've added pace everywhere. We're a much quicker team than we were last year. And we have a defined style of play. We've got quality throughout, and we've got like 2 players for every position who I would be comfortable saying are minimum mid-table Championship players.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kyogo, because that was sort of my thing when you signed him. Was obviously he had a pretty poor second half of the season when he did make the move to France, didn't score a goal. So I think there is slight concerns, but I'm not all too concerned about it because obviously the quality's there. I think there's parts of it where people are saying autos and champions stuff. I don't think they're as good as the teams we'll see in second and first as far as on paper quality in the squad. I think them 2 are still, because you probably have already guessed who it is, but we'll get on to them in a minute. But I think them 2 are still a little bit ahead, and that's why I've got them in fourth. I just think it'll just come down to quality of the squad by the end of it, and them 2 just, in my opinion, have better teams. But it's really hard to argue against Birmingham as much as some people may want to, because they're just on the complete right track. And if you compare this to 2 years ago when they were relegated from the division, it's almost like, what if you had to say this in 2 years' time that we will be predicting them to be playoffs in the Championship again? They'd be like, what on earth are you talking about? So it's all going in the right direction for Birmingham, and I think they've got a great manager, a great system, and just a great team overall. So I said it's pretty much a similar story to Coventry, really. It's a good squad and a good manager, and they will do well. But I think they've got a slightly better squad than Coventry, hence why I have them one place above. And Ollie, I'm going to assume you're going to say a fairly similar story.
I agree with all of what you've said, guys. Just to talk about, like, obviously coming up with Wrexham, and I said about winning there. I think Birmingham absolutely romped League One last season, didn't they? There was nobody near them. The best team in the division by a mile. Kept all the squad from last season. Added some real key signings, some real good Championship experience, and even some Premier League experience with Gray. Wouldn't surprise me if they were top two. But yeah, I went fourth, but they've got a real good chance this season. I think they're on the crest of a wave.
So third place, obviously we can't compare it to last season because they were in League One, but it's a very, very big jump from the first place last season to third place in the league above. So not too much arguments with any of us here on Birmingham being good this year. Now to the more or less unanimous top two, but the next one we'll get on to. Chris hasn't won in the league, but the rest of us have all put Southampton in second, obviously relegated in horrendous fashion last season, but look much more with it coming into this season. And for me, this is just quality again. There's so much talent in that Southampton team. I think they've already got quality strikers like Archer. They've also added Damien Downs into that squad, who I think is really good. Will still prove himself in a very good league, albeit no one knew he was. Everyone knows who he is now, and I think it's a great appointment that fits them really well. There's just not much to argue against them not being in the top two, really. I think that's just the main thing with this. It's just you can't really say much negative about them because they all seem to be trending in the right direction. So again, we've all agreed. Ollie, second place for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, just the riddled with quality at this level. Obviously, you will say they were really poor in the Premier League last season, but the gulf between those two divisions, man, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, the pricing Tyler Dibbling out of a move, it seems. Do you think he'll stay there? I mean, I don't think it'll make too much of a difference on whether they go up or not. They'll be top two for me. They're too much quality in that team.
Yeah, I echo exactly what you two said. Squad is ridiculous. Will still seems like a slam dunk of a manager. I just don't really have any concerns. I'm just kind of upset they're in the league because I think we'd have a much better shot of finishing top two if they weren't.
Yeah.
Quite simply.
I mean, yeah, it's a pretty unanimous thing, isn't it? With Southampton, we've all gone second, bar Chris putting them in first, which is, again, quite interesting. But as you said, there's just not really much to argue against a team like Southampton, is there?
You could see any of the top two finishing on 100 points quite comfortably. So it could well be a toss of the coin at the end of the season. But obviously, we'll come to that first place in a minute.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll go straight to it now. First place, Ipswich Town. I'd love to get Chris's reason as to how on earth he's managed to land them in fourth. But we the rest of us here anyway, we're all in unanimous agreement. I think Chris has got some answering to do in the comments of this video. Unanimous agreement, Ipswich to win the Championship. And we spoke about it before we started recording, but that squad, I mean, I just said, just because Elliott wasn't sure, and I said, just look at their squad numbers list and come back to me. And then it was pretty much straight away like, okay, yeah, fair enough. There is ridiculous amounts of talent in that team, and they have the best manager in this division by a country mile as well. I think, ironically, for me and you, Elliott, obviously our manager rankings were Kieran McKenna first, Will still second, and it's reflected here by Ipswich first and Southampton second in the predictions. But there's just too much talent in this team to not win this division, in my opinion. And Kieran McKenna is an unbelievable manager who will get the best out of these footballers. They've made some cracking signings already. They got Kajust back from Napoli on loan. They signed that midfielder from France for like £10 million. There's silly money being thrown about by them as well, because they need to get back to the Premier League at the first possible convenience, and I don't see them struggling to do so this season. But as I said earlier, our manager rankings seem to reflect quite well on the table rankings as well.
Yeah, that's largely how I sort of thought about teams. Like, how good do I think their manager is? I think that's a big part of it. It's the reason I have Ipswich over Southampton, because I actually think the Southampton squad is probably even better than the Ipswich one. But I think McKenna is, as you say, the best manager in the league. they're probably going to lose Hutchinson, but I'm sure they've got somebody lined up as soon as he goes. They're just going to have to recover from losing the first game of the season, and then we'll see how they do.
Certain strikers,
sure that won't age badly.
We'll come back to this this video will probably come out at a similar time tomorrow.
Yeah, probably come out Saturday when we've already lost. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what more do you add to it? I mean, they're just littered with quality, aren't they? Again, like I said a minute ago, it's a toss-up between Ipswich and Southampton. The squads are so good, but McKenna is the key, isn't he? He's gonna bring them back up. There's just quality all over. Bringing Kajus back as well. Hopefully, they can get Philogene firing pretty early for their sake. I mean, they've lost a couple of key players, but it won't hinder them. They'll be straight back up.
So yeah, pretty unanimous agreement. I said I'd love Chris to be here because I'd love to how on earth you come to the conclusion, Chris, of finishing in 4th this season. But we may look stupid by the end of the year and he might be absolutely dead on. We'll soon find out. But that is our combined prediction. So obviously, as we said, the table averaged out for what we all predicted. So there is our combined table between us of what we thought. So as we said, there's a few disagreements here and there, but overall we're pretty standard in agreement with a lot of these teams being where they are. And then we'll just show you quickly. This is our split. So our top 2, our playoffs, and our relegated 3. So all of us agreeing on Wednesday going down. 3 of us agreeing Hull. Obviously, Ollie being a bit more optimistic than us.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Top 6 is all fairly similar. So me and Chris going a bit rogue with Norwich and definitely rogue with Swansea. And even more rogue, I suppose, with him being the only one who doesn't have Ipswich and Southampton as 1 and 2, with Ipswich in 4th. Chris, if you do watch the video, please comment some of these opinions because I am very intrigued. But that is our championship prediction. So I'm sure you'll all come. Even now, you probably have complaints about it. Some teams, but I'm sure when we come back in 12 months time or 6 months, whatever it is, and you've seen that your team that we predicted to finish 23rd actually finished 7th. I'm sure you'll come back and laugh at us in the comments, no doubt. But as I said, it's just a prediction. So we don't hate these. Well, some people might hate some of these teams. I suppose, Elliott, if I said to you about Wrexham, it might be a different story. But that is our predictions for the 24-25 season. So thank you very much to Ollie and Elliott for joining me today. So that is it. We will see you next week for another video. But until then, thank you very much for watching.
Cheers.